What's up, guys? It is Corey from SuperKamiGuru9000, and welcome to my review of Bleach, Chapter 534. Not a lot really happened this week. However, a lot of huge holes were actually filled in this story, except for the hole that is now in Masaki. And yes, that is easy grounds for a joke, but I'm going to skip it altogether, because this is the week where we finally get to get those first clues, and we finally get to figure out why Ichigo is the way he is. And apparently it all does have to do with Masaki, and everything sort of comes full circle in this chapter, which I really enjoyed. Right off the bat, this chapter was mostly about Masaki having to deal with the consequences of the attack she had with that hollow, and we get to see the repercussions from that. We also get to see that Katagiri, who is also the friend of Ryu and also sort of like the maid of that family, basically sort of went over his head and talked to the mother and basically explained that Masaki was fighting against a hollow and sort of messed up and everything. So Ryu's visibly pretty pissed about all of this, and he just wants to protect Masaki. However, things go really south when all of a sudden she starts to collapse out of nowhere because she has this weird like hollow hole literally appearing right here. And who knows what's going on here, but it's pretty intense, and he's trying to figure out what the hell he can do to rectify the entire situation. So he decides to run away with her, and then that's all of a sudden he gets attacked by a friggin' hollow out of nowhere. So the giant hollow creature is predictably cut in half by none other than Isshin himself. He shows up and figures out, oh crap, what's going on? What happened to her? And all the characters are sort of confused as to what to do. They both clearly want to help each other, but then all of a sudden a third party enters into the picture, and that is Urahara. He appears just sort of floating in the sky as usual, and this is where a lot of the big part of the story starts to come into play, and it's also unfortunately where the chapter comes to a close. And essentially what's getting ready to set up here is Urahara is going to try and save Masaki. He thinks he knows a way that this can work, but it's pretty obvious what's going on here. Ryu and Isshin are going to end up becoming friends. Masaki and Isshin are going to end up becoming lovers, and then eventually they're going to be husband and wife, and this is going to lead eventually into the birth of Ichigo and his sisters. Now, obvious theory here is the fact that she has a hollow hole now is probably going to coincide with the fact that she probably will have some latent hollow abilities within her. She's Quincy, she's hollow. It all sort of makes sense now. And this also makes sense why when that one hollow was attacking her, it resembled Ichigo's like super hollified form. So maybe those traits, of course, were carried over to Ichigo when all of this was taking place. So, of course, you got the Quincy blood, you have the Shinigami blood, and then you have that small trace of hollow that's in there as well. So everything does actually kind of make sense here. I'm guessing maybe Masaki won't be completely purged of everything that was, inside of her with the hollow. There's probably going to be some remnants, and that's probably why Ichigo is the way he is. He's just this ultimate chimera-esque guy. He has all of these different powers. But that's pretty much the end of the chapter this week, and I kind of wish there was more. I read it a few times, and it just flew right by, The good thing is, though, we finally do get that crucial information. We finally get to see why she is the way she is. The hollow hole, though, I'm interested to see how they're going to bring that up. And I can't wait to see how Urahara is going to be involved in this, because he's obviously one of the smartest guys in the series. He's one of the main characters. And I'm sure he's going to have a very important role on the future of this family. So I can't wait to see how that's going to play out. But for the most part, this week's chapter was so-so. I just wish there was a little bit more. It just flew right by. The artwork, as usual, was pretty decent. Some pretty good character designs on Kubo's part. But still, it was just an okay chapter. But still, I'd recommend it to Bleach fans because this is going to be some pretty crucial information. I'm sure it's going to be elaborated on a lot more next week, and it'll probably make a lot more sense. But that's just my theory on it, and that's what I liked about this week's chapter. Like I said, the pacing issue was a little weird, and it was by no means a perfect chapter, but still an entertaining read. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. So if you guys checked out this week's chapter, how did you feel about it? I'd love to know. You can let me know with your comments below. That concludes this review today. SuperKamiGuru9000. Out.